Morning. We're going to jump in right now. Hey guys, I'm Eugene Brown. I took about $5,000, turned it into $2.4 million in about 11 months moving money. So I want to discuss with you why people fail at trading. And I'll also, if you've never been on one of my short lives, I'll show you the money as well so that you can gain more confidence in what I'm telling you. So we'll get started. Pull up my handy dandy list that I can talk about so I stay on message, right? 15 reasons why people fail. One of the first main reasons is that people, they don't seek for the knowledge. They don't get the education. They don't read the books. They don't spend time online learning. They don't get coaching. They don't do the things that allow them to improve their skill set. So it's a lack of an education, and there's a lot of misinformation out there that disrupts their education. So certainly be mindful of that. You gotta know what you gotta know to be successful moving money. People treat money like gambling. Believe me, I know. I've been ultra aggressive over the years moving money. I know about all of these pitfalls. I've lived them, leaned into them. Many years ago, when I got out of the military back in 1993, I was invested heavily into mutual funds. And then when I transitioned back to the civilian world, at some point I started to invest in individual stocks, but I was making all of the mistakes that I'm starting to tell you about. And as a proof of failed concept or mistakes that'll cost you, back in July, this is 7/06 reading backwards, the goal was to take $2,000 and grow that balance in 2009 to $250,000. But I was not able to get that done. And then if you go to the front of the book, remember the other one was 2006 where I started. This is 2016. The goal was to take about $5,000 in March and turn that balance into about $129,000 in December. So I was unable to get that done either. And the reason is for the mistakes that I'm talking to you about. You know, lack of an education, treated money as if it grew on trees, gambling, with the money that I needed. So all of those things are super important for you to not do if you expect to be successful at trading. Before I keep going on with a list, let me take a second to show you guys the money. For those of you that are just joining me, I'm talking about 15 reasons why you are not, or people are not successful in trading stocks or moving money, whether that be crypto or anything else. I was able to take about $5,000, turn it into $2.4 million in about 11 months moving money. So I do have a good idea of what I'm talking about. I'll show you a video that kind of proves that. It does prove it. TD Ameritrade was bought by Charles Schwab. TD Ameritrade was the company that had Thinkorswim, and Charles Schwab was growing. They said they are not moving the chart balance over from TD Ameritrade, so if you wanted a copy of it, you better make one. So I'm going to turn the camera around. And what you see here is my YouTube channel. And the first video we come to is this video where I'm talking about the same thing that I just said about Charles Schwab. So if we scroll right here, you see TD Ameritrade, my account, you see my name, Brown, my account, you see my name, Brown, I'm Eugene Brown. balance history that I spoke about. And then what you'll see is going back to where I started. What you'll see is March 2020, and I took about $477 right there, and then I added some money to it, and you'll see that the balance, it was roughly about $5,000 where I started, grew from that to almost $300,000 in 6 months. And I'll let the video play quickly, maybe start. There we go. It's taking in a minute. You can see I started in March, then by August we were at 261. By September I was at 299. So 60 times the money in 6 months. And then what you guys will see in a sec is that I proceeded to lose about $240,000. And what you need to know here is, I don't want you thinking, oh my gosh, the risks. Well, the only reason why I lost that money is because I was super aggressive. Remember, I'm talking about why people lose money in the markets. You know, the reasons. Here are the reasons. You either are too aggressive, or you do stupid things. So you go from 299, now you go down to, somewhere around 60. It's not because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it poorly, and so now we're down to, 65,000. So for a lot of people on the planet, including myself, going from almost $300,000 and then 2.5 months later to 60, it's not because of the market. It's because of me. It's because of my stock selection and those choices, and me being too aggressive and not having the right skill set or the knowledge in my brain. I was doing all of the things that I shouldn't do that would blow up an account. But I was doing enough of the things right to actually make a bunch of money. And usually that's not a good mix, but I got myself together. I hit the play button, and then I took the balance to about 700,000, and a month later, changed the stocks, super aggressive in what I was doing. And then we went from about $700,000 back down to $400,000. I'll let the video play. See January 2021. See that 400 and something. Now we climbed our way back up, and we went, from 5,000 to 500,000 from March 2020 to January, and then I just kept going. Fast forward this for you a little bit. So what you see here, this drop, is me buying a new home for the kids right there and the family. I paid cash for it, meaning I didn't have a mortgage. Here is $900,000, and then here IRS, here's several hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. There were so many things that I did wrong leading up to making money. It's a little bit ridiculous. So what I'm telling you are things to avoid in your own lives, in your own trading journey, like poor risk management. I would have too many of my eggs in too few baskets. Sometimes I would have all of my eggs just in one basket. And that's not a smart way to do it. It's way, way too aggressive, and it's way, way too reckless. And if you do something like that, you better have a sharp eye on that money. And you better have stop losses and ways within the system that it allows you to protect that money if you're super aggressive. Over trading is another reason. What does that mean? You're trading too much. I may see IBM over here and I like it, and then a day later or an hour later I get out of IBM, I take a loss, and I go over here to Nvidia or Google or Meta or whatever. I'm trading too much. I'm not allowing the stock or the investment or the trade to do what I thought it was going to do. And so I'm over trading. Lack of patience. There's a saying that patience pays. Patience pays. Having some patience with what you're doing when it makes sense now is a big deal. There's also a saying about it's not timing the market, it's the time in the market. So you've got to pay your dues. You've got to go through the ups and downs. But as I coach, because I got 4 different coaching groups where I help people learn how to trade, I try to help them avoid all of those pitfalls. Some of them, obviously, they're doing their own things. I'm certainly giving them stock picks, helping them make money. But they've got to get their feet wet, and they're choosing some of their own names themselves, because that's the only way they're going to learn. But along the way, the goal is to help them avoid the mistakes. So over trading, patience, poor risk management, not enough education, gambling. Here's a big one. People are too emotional, way too emotional when they're moving money. And there's another saying. Trading with emotions clouds your judgment. If you're too emotional, you're all over the place. You get too high when you make money. It's one thing to say, okay, that was a good day. Whoop, whoop. I made $5,000, or I made whatever you made. And you get too low when you lose money. Oh my gosh, I lost $100. The world is ending. I would tell you, if the world ends, if you lose $100, you should not be having your money in the market. Don't have money that you're investing or trading that you can't afford to lose. And there's no reason why you would need to lose that money if you listen to me and you put in the safeguards that I will teach you to allow you to move your balance up. For those of you guys that are just joining me, I'm going over a number of reasons why someone is not successful trading. I talked a little bit about me taking $5,000, turning it into $2.4 million in about 11 months. I showed the audience already that video. Towards the end of this, I'll show it one more time for those of you that want to hang on for about 5 more minutes. Being too emotional. Let's look at another reason. Chasing losses. And what that means is you're in a bad trade and you didn't have a stop loss and the stock is going down, and you just keep throwing good money after bad in a particular investment that doesn't really warrant the additional investment. So chasing your losses. Unrealistic expectations. Oh my gosh. People get into the stock market, and some people believe that they're going to make $1 million by the end of the week, starting with $1,000. Of course, I'm exaggerating. The unrealistic expectation as to what either you're going to achieve and also in what time frame. Can you make a lot of money? Without question, I'm living proof of it. You can take a little bit of money, in my case $5,000, and turn it into millions of dollars in 11 months. But there is a strategy behind that, and there is a cost potentially behind that. There's a certain level of risk to be able to do that. But there is a way for you guys all to become millionaires in, say, 5 years, in my opinion, very conservatively, very safely. And that way is if you take $5,000, you may say, Eugene, I don't have $5,000. Well, we're going to have to start from someplace. But if we're using $5,000 as the example, if you take $5,000 and you earn 10% on your money every month, and that money compounds over 60 months or 5 years, you will have, without any additional deposits, you will have about $1.5, $1.6 million. So for those of you guys that are younger than I am, which is probably almost all of you, if you're under 58 and you have lots of time to be able to learn about moving money, you should make a crap ton of money. You just need to learn how to do it. And if you get off this call and you take on your cell phone and you go to calculator and you type in $5,000 times 110% button equals, it is of course going to equal 5,500. But what you do then is hit the equals button one more time to represent 2 months, right? It will change to 6,250. And then hit the equals button 58 more times, equals, equals, equals. And it will show you how money grows every time you hit equals. That is the magic of compound interest, compounding interest. And if you do that over 60 months, you're going to make a lot of money. And so you might say, Eugene, well, how do I make 10% of my money every month? That's how I teach it. In fact, let's look at an example real quick. Let me show you guys. And for those of you guys just joining me, I'll show you some money here in a second. Let's look at an example. An example I think everybody would know. Let me log in to Thinkorswim, and I'm going to show you an example of where you would make 10% on your money in a given month. And there are a lot of names, I think you guys all know, where you see the ticker on CNBC News or Fox Business News or CNN or wherever you get some of your financial news. You will see where tickers have gone up 10% in a day, right? So we're talking about 10% in a month. So if I could when I teach people how to identify stocks that will produce 10% moves, then they have an opportunity certainly to do what it is that I'm talking about. Let me put my password in. Okay, let me grab the security code. Hold on. All right, so while this is loading, so again, recap. If you take $5,000 and you earn 10% on your money with it compounding, you don't take it out. You make the 5,000 turn to 5,500. The 5,500 turns into 6,250, and you keep going month after month. You're going to find that that money grows to about $1.5, $1.6 million over the course of 5 years. So if you give yourself 5 years to get rich, because I think most people out here believe, a couple of $1 million or so is rich, then you can really change your life. You really, really can. So let me show you something here. All right, what you're looking at, this is Lowe's, the home improvement store, right? This is the news. If the stock were trading, this would be the ticker symbols. This would be your watch list and things that will allow you to look at certain names. Like this is the S&P 500 that I have pulled up here. So this is all of the 500 stocks on the Standard & Poor's. If you're a client, and depending on what level you're at, I might be watching your account. So like here's Kim's account. Obviously my name's not Kim, and I can look at Kim's stocks right here. So I can put alerts in for her to help her make money. So here's Lowe's Improvement, Home Improvement. And here's their stock. Here's the chart of their stock. So what did I say? I said, we need to be able to earn 10% on our money every single month. And if we do that slowly, you will find that you can make money. So here's examples of just 10% moves, like this move. We're looking at a monthly chart. Let me lean in here. MO for monthly. And this move here, put this closer. This, and I'll teach you all this represents a month, this particular candle right here. So the stock opened the month of January, oops, right there, the start of January, don't worry about the D. The stock opened the month at 241. The high was 278, the low 239, and so far, we're on the 18th, the stock is at 277.55. So if we do the math, the stock opened about 241, right? The stock is at 277, so 277 minus 241, it's up 36 points. Take the 36 points into the 241, say that's roughly where you bought it, that's almost 15%. So this month so far, Lowe's is up 15%. And so if your goal was to earn 10% on your money every month, at this point you may say, you know what, I'm going to sell this right here. Because my goal was to take my balance from $5,000 to $5,500, where I'm above that. I might sell that stock and then wait and maybe see if I can find something else that will yield another 10%. Or maybe the stock is doing amazing and it looks like it's going to continue to run, and I hold what I've got and let it run. The stock has been doing amazing. Lowe's looks like it's going to further climb. When I look at the charts, and I teach you about technical analysis and fundamental analysis. Technical is the charts, the chart patterns, the technical indicators. It's what you're looking at. The fundamental analysis is the news, the share structure, the earnings. It's the basic stuff about the company. What sector are they in? Why would this particular sector or industry do well? The fundamental side of it. Your job, my job, is to teach people how to marry the technical side with the fundamental side. Marry those two things and then lean in to figure out what should be done with the stock. Where would I buy it? Why would I buy it? And where would I sell it? So there are 4 groups that I teach in. One is very beginner-like, to teach people who are not familiar with trading. My company's called Kraken, and the reason why I named it Kraken, it's after the mythical creature, the Kraken, who, is all-powerful, if you will. It can sink ships, can do all these crazy things. And I always talk about people need to release their own Kraken, release that thing that is inside of them, that gets them through the fearful times in life, and that keeps them from doing the things that they should do. Release your own Kraken. So the beginners group is just $37 a month, and people can start and stop as often as they would like. I do a live training session every Tuesday night. It's a brand new group. We just have a few people in it, and the content that I load is in a private Facebook group, and then you have, of course, access to the Zoom link for the live training call. And that training call typically will last about 45 minutes, starts at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and that call is recorded and it is archived or loaded into the private Facebook group that you'll be a part of. And I tried to find a price point that everybody could afford. I know some of you guys spend $10 a day on coffee at Starbucks. Some of you guys for sure spend $40 a week on coffee. So I tried to find something that was super simple for people that they could afford and that they can learn and that they can begin to change their lives with. What I will tell you is learning to trade has transformed the lives of my family. I'm a husband of 20 years. I've got 4 children, 18 and under. And we went from a 1,400 square foot home ranch style that needed a lot of love to almost 5,000 square foot home, 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms is what I'm in now that I paid cash for. And that all came, you guys, from trading, from learning how to move money. Think about it. I bought $1 million home with cash in 1 year. It's actually less than a year from trading. I didn't have to talk to anybody. I'm sitting here looking at the charts. I'm doing my thing, but I was super aggressive. I don't teach my students how to be super aggressive, but if they want to lean in a little bit, I'll try to help them think through the process of being super aggressive. It's just everything you're doing is at a faster pace, and I share that with them. And I talk about strategy as far as how do you go from $5,000 to $2 million in a year. But I try to, for those of you that are out there that say, hey, I'd rather make my money slowly and build from, $5,000 to $2 million or $1.5 million over the course of 5 years, that is a great way to do it. Very methodical, very structured, taking your balance higher and higher and higher and higher over 5 years. The other couple of groups, I'll talk about I'll talk about a couple of other groups. The other one is $97 a month. We meet every Thursday, and that group, that time frame is 6 o'clock to about 7:15. Sometimes it's 8 o'clock. You don't have to stay on that long, but some of us, with me coaching and teaching and pounding and preaching, it tends to run a little bit longer, but they get a lot of value out of it. And then what I do for that group of folks, I also send them out a weekend review so that they're able to review some stocks that I'm suggesting that they look at over the weekend. And today I need to do that because today is Sunday. I think the market is closed tomorrow for MLK Day. But I tell them where I would buy the stock in the weekend review. I would buy it here and I would look to sell it here. So they have a roadmap. It's just up to them to decide whether they're going to buy it or they're not going to buy it. It's not my money. But the weekend review really helps them get ready for their week with some good names that I have looked at personally. So, and how I do that for them, like I'll turn the camera around, it will go like, I'll usually, I'll go to a list and say I'll go to the NASDAQ, maybe I go to the NASDAQ 100 and I'll click on it. And so here are all the 100 stocks. And so if I'm clicking on, say, Intel, it'll change over here. Lowe's will change to Intel. And see it changed. And then what I'll do, I'll evaluate Intel. And then I'll make a list. I'll usually just kind of go through all of the names. Like I'll say Intel, and I'll be like, I'll buy it here, sell it here. And then I'll go to the next one, PayPal. And I'll click on, and PayPal will show up. And I'll go through PayPal, and I'll talk about where I'd buy it, why I'd buy it, where I'd sell it. And I go through these name after name after name. And then what I do for them is I say, okay, guys, of the 70 names I ran through, here are those maybe 8 names that I really like, and here are the reasons why. And so I try to set them up for success for the following week. So the thing I always say to people, you guys, if you can't make money, with me coaching you, you've got problems, because I really try to ensure that what you do with me is free. The price point here, at $38 a month, man, if you can't make $38 a month dealing with me, learning how to trade, you might just be a little slower, right? And I mean that in the nicest of ways, because I give you things that will make you money. And then so you've got that $38 group, you got the $97 group that meets a lot longer, and I give them a lot more value. This group here is for beginners. And then you've got folks, which are the majority of my clients, who just pay me $2,000 at one shot, and it's for the year, and they're able to call me on the phone. They get one-on-ones. They get this sort of service where I have their portfolio in front of me. So if one of the customers is Kim, and I go to personal, and I go over here, Doug, Kim, I can go to people's personal portfolios, and then her portfolio's right there. And then I can look at it, and I can help her make money. So that level is a one-time. But I always tell people, if you're really trying to learn how to trade, invest in your own education. And if you have a business that's somehow related to money, maybe you can even write it off. I'm not sure, though. You'd have to do some homework to see if that's something you can write off for your company under continuing education. So those are the three groups. Quick recap. $38 a month, just under that, for beginners. Meets every Tuesday. We meet for about 45 minutes. All of the calls are archived. They're recorded, so you can go back and watch it. You're in a private Facebook group. I give you other content to help you learn. Second group is $97. We meet on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. It typically is for an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. I apologize. But they don't have to stay on for the full 2 hours. But they know I'm going to load that training in their private Facebook group. And then there are the folks who want, one-on-one training. It's a one-time $2,000, and that'll take them through a full year. That's the majority of my clients. But I'm really trying to grow a base of clients, of folks who are like, hey, Eugene, I really want to learn. I've got $38, which I think most people do, and try to kind of give back in that space, because the reality is money's really tight with a lot of people. And if I can help them in a way where money's not so, where it's a doable thing for them, then that's a good thing. All right, so we're going to end. I'm going to show you the money one more time for people who are just joining us. I was able to take $5,000, turn it into about $2.4 million in about 11 months. I teach trading. TD Ameritrade was bought by Charles Schwab. They weren't moving the chart balances over. They said if you want it, then you'll need to make a copy of it. So I did that to help in the trading business as a measure of proof for people, because the reality is people usually believe what they see and not what they hear. So this is me doing the video. I'll scan backwards. I'm talking about that same setup. You see, this is Brown, my account, my name again, balance history. This is and there we go, TD Ameritrade back here somewhere. Yeah, TD Ameritrade. And so I took, in March of 2020, I took $477. Right there, $477. I added about $4,500 to it roughly, and I'll scan. And what you'll see is I took my balance from $5,000 to about $300,000 in about 6 months. So I made actually 12 times the money in about 6 months, which is, it's fantastic. It was a great accomplishment. And so you see the balance going up. So remember, we started in March. This is September. So about 6 months, we 12x the money. And then, we 60 times the money, not 12x, 60 times the money. And then what you see is the balance went back down from about 299 to back down to around 60. And it's not because the market is rigged or scary or anything like that. It's because I was stupid. And you see, we went back down to 60. So September 1st, whatever that was roughly. So we got all of September, all of October, and then half of November, I proceeded to lose $240,000. This is all me. This is all part of the reasons why people don't do well in trading. But then I got my act together and I took the balance to $700,000 in about a month. And then from there, I lost about $300,000 coming back down to low fours. And again, this ebb and flow doesn't have to be so crazy like it looks here. These drastic moves. And the reason why we had all these drastic moves was because of my drastic brain, where I'm doing all of these things that are aggressive, that are not at an even kill. I just shouldn't have done, well, I'm glad I did what I did, but I shouldn't, I don't teach my students to do it this way. I know there's probably a few of you that'll say, no, Eugene, teach me to do it this way so I can make a couple of $1 million in a year. But it's super aggressive, you guys. I would never want anybody to be this damn aggressive, because the money you make is super important. And I don't want you to not be able to survive the game. The goal is to survive the game. So, you can see right here, I rose it up to about 2.3, almost 2.4, right there. So then right here is where I bought the new home, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. It just was, it was a bit of a very much of a whirlwind sort of time. And people say, what the hell was that like? How the hell do you go? Like one of my clients, he's about 5 doors down. He said, how the hell do you go from $5,000 to $2 million, over $2 million in a year? And I just, explained it to him. I had a strategy. My goal was to earn, 10% of my money every week. Remember, I showed you guys earlier, this is 2016. So I've always had these goals. Like if I take this much money, my goal is to grow it to this much money, So there's always got to be some sort of plan in place for you to be able to achieve your objective. So during COVID, here's how the story went. I was driving for Uber, and we were working on an online platform. If you become a client, I'll share this online platform with you later. So we were working on our online platform to help entrepreneurs, small businesses, etc. But when COVID hit, I was like, I can't be in a car with people with this thing called COVID. So because I used to work for the Vanguard Group many years ago, and I used to be a financial planner, very, very briefly, mind you. And I had all my investment licenses, your Series 7, which is a 6-hour exam on stocks, bonds, mutual funds, futures, all of those sorts of things. My brother and some other folks called me and asked me, hey, this market is tanking. What do you suggest that I buy in this market? And I gave them some really good advice, and they made some really good money. But in that moment myself, that is when I decided to take a little bit of money that I didn't have, because I was all over the place with jobs and with between my ears and with my money, that I didn't really have any money. So I took about $500 and I began to invest without telling my wife. And then I made some money, and then I robbed Peter, which I don't recommend, rob Peter part of the bills before they were due to put it in the market. And then I did that a couple of times and put the money back. And I took about around $5,000 was the total sort of nest egg that I began with. And then I grew that money to over $2 million in 11 months. And so obviously I have a good idea of what needs to happen from a systematic standpoint. I tell my students all the time, don't focus on the money. Focus on the process of making money. If you focus on the process of making money, the money just follows you. It's just a byproduct of a system of making money. The money will just follow you. So, and they'll hear me, they know, if any of them are watching, they're probably laughing. They're like, yes, he does not play around with that. I'll say, stop focusing on the damn money. Focus on the process of making the money. And so that's what I teach them. I teach them how to make money. And so if any of you guys are interested in talking more, or you're interested in learning how to make money, you can hit the bio. There's a link for the website, very generic website, but it's got some of the PayPal links in there if you want to, do the $38 a month scenario or the $97 a month scenario. And then if you want to do the $2,000 a year and you want individual one-on-one training, then email me, or you can text me as well. To text me, it's 704-835-0025. Again, if you want to text me and you want to schedule kind of a one-on-one, maybe short Zoom, it's 704-835-0025. If you need to email me, you can send it to Eugene, which is Eugene. You'd be surprised how many people can't spell that name. It's a little crazy. But Eugene, Eugene, Brown, like the color, at Kraken, KRAKKEN.org. Eugene Brown at Kraken.org. And you can email me and I will get back with you. It might take me a couple of days because I don't check my emails every day, but I will get back with you. All right, does anybody have any questions? And I will wait. If you have a question about something as it relates to trading, why people are not successful at it, I'll run through the list real quick. They treat trading like it's gambling. They have no trading plan. They have poor risk management. They overtrade. They lack of patience. They're trading emotionally. They're not using stop losses. A stop loss will stop the loss. If you buy something at $10 a share and you don't want to lose but 2% on your money, you put a stop loss in the system already. So if the stock does start to come down a little bit, it will automatically sell. And I teach my students about where to use it, why to use it. Some of them use it, some of them don't. People chase losses. They have unrealistic expectations. They're leveraged way too much. Maybe they're using a margin account, or they're using options and they don't really understand how to use the options. I'm looking at my list here. No edge or strategy. They're inconsistent with their execution. They lack in education, which I talk about all of the time. You gotta get it here. And then if you have it here, you start to develop a system and a strategy around how you're going to build your account, focusing on the fundamentals, stacking small wins. And a small win might be, I made 9% today. 2 days from now, I made 8%. Then I made 11%. Maybe then I made 4%. I want you to stack wins, because if we get used to stacking wins, repetition, you're kind of getting used to what you're looking for, how this thing goes, and then you start to build your account. Ignoring market conditions, teach them all of that, and quitting too soon or never adapting. In the example that I showed you, you saw that, Had I quit at about $60,000, I would have never made it to $2.4 million. So when my money was going up and then it came down, all of that craziness tied into either a lack of skill, lack of discipline, lack of education, certainly being too aggressive, gambling, all of it. That's why it was all over the place. But I was starting to figure it out, and that's why the jumps went higher and higher, and I started to lean in, and I started to get more of a calmness between the ears. So again, I really lean into all of that with the students. Okay, it's Sunday, football's on, it's time for breakfast. Does anybody have any questions that I can help them with? Any comments, any questions as it relates to either joining a group or, to further explain one of the reasons why that would be a reason why people would fail at trading? Anybody? I'm glad you guys are on today. Anybody have any? Make sure I can see. Well, that's a lot better, right? Good gracious, you guys, I'm blind. Anybody have any questions? Does anybody need to see the money that didn't see the money? If you put a 1 in the chat, I'll quickly go over it, show you the $2.4 million again. If anybody needs to see it, if you already saw it, wonderful, and we can go to breakfast. I'll wait. I'll tell you the emails again. Phone number if you want to text me, you're interested in learning how to trade. And this is not only for people who are beginners, it's certainly also for people who are looking to hone their skills a bit. I had a gentleman the other day, he is in the banking industry, and he has done very, very well, and he doesn't trade individual stocks, he deals with options. And so he had asked me how could I help him further his options business, and I explained to him what I did and how my recognition of what a stock should do or shouldn't do would help him in his thinking and in his own process as it relates to writing options and buying options and all of those sorts of things. So stock market is the best opportunity on the planet, I think, because if you're more of an introvert, you don't have to talk to anybody. I can just look at the chart. I can decipher the information. I can decide how I'm going to build my portfolio, and I can make as much money as I would like. I will be super, super rich from trading stocks. It won't be from coaching. It won't be because I go to work. It won't be because I win the lottery. It's going to be because I'm trading stocks. And I would encourage you guys to learn it. If you're self-taught, that's wonderful. If you can do it. It's probably going to take you a little bit more time. Or if you get a coach, that's also wonderful. Just pick a good one that's proven that they know how to do it. And give yourself some time, you guys. Don't try to eat the elephant in 2 months. It's just not going to happen in 2 months. It's so unlikely. So give yourself some time. You got a big fight that goes on between the bulls and the bears. The bulls are the ones who believe the market's going to go up. The bears are the ones that believe the market is going to go down, and they trade accordingly, either long or short. And this fight that goes on between folks is it's a wonderful fight, because you can make money as a bear going short and believing the market's going to go down, and you can make money as a bull believing the market is going to go up. You can sell options that represent both sides of that. You're either buying or selling puts, or you're buying call options, and there's a whole other strategy that's around options. So know that you can make money a lot of ways, whether you're doing it, you're a scalper, meaning you're in the market, you're just trying to take little bits and pieces of money. When Lowe's moves a little bit, it moves $1 or whatever, maybe that represents 2%, and you take the 2%. You're scalping, you're skimming. You do that a lot throughout the day. You're just taking little bits and pieces a lot. And people feel Some of them feel safer that way. They don't want to deal with the whole big move. It goes up 7%. They're like, no, if I get the 2%, I'm going to take it. Find something else, 2%, 2%, 2%. They're just scalping. And then you have folks who are day traders who are kind of closing positions out, usually most at the end of the day, most days. Then you have folks who are more like position traders, where they'll take a position in a stock and they may hold that position, say for a few days, or maybe it's a few weeks, maybe it's even sometimes a few months. So position traders, they believe the stock is going to do whatever they believe it's going to do, and they take a position. And then you have the folks who do things a little bit more longer term. It might take them, they might be in the stock for years, taking a very, very, very strong long-term approach to their investing, like a Warren Buffett, if you will. It's not necessarily really trading. You kind of gravitate towards becoming a long-term investor. There's a difference between investors. You're all both investing, but the investor sort of track versus the trader sort of track is very different. When you guys are at your jobs and you put money in a mutual fund, you're more like an investor. You're not really You're not a trader. Do people trade mutual funds? They do. But what you're doing at work, and you guys all know this, you're dollar cost averaging into a fund that you guys pool your money together, globally, nationally, whatever. People pool their money, and in this mutual fund, they might have, for instance, 50 stocks. And of those 50 stocks, if 5 of them are not doing great, it's okay. The other 45 are just fine. And so it moves what's called a net asset value up. And so that net asset value is really the price. And the price of that mutual fund moves up. But then there's this fluctuation because the fund manager may be trading stocks out. And so when you get paid on the 15th and the 30th, for example, every 2 weeks, whatever days those are on, you dollar cost average in. And then you grow that money tax sheltered. And then at some point, ideally, when you are ready to retire, whether you change jobs, you move the 401k to this place, to this place, to this place, you are in a lower tax bracket, and the money that has grown tax sheltered will then be able to be withdrawn at a lower tax bracket later on in life. With you buying stocks, it is no different. It's different, but it's a different sort of approach. I might own 50 stocks like the mutual fund, except for individually their performance matters. I don't know if necessarily more. It just, they're separate from each other. And so I encourage people to have a taxable account and a tax sheltered account with stocks. And if you have a business, you want to establish either an S Corp or C Corp or an LLC. And what I do for my LLCs is I have SEP IRA, a Simplified Employee Pension IRA. And that allows me to contribute either I think it's the lesser of like 60-something thousand versus 25% every year. And you start to dump money into those accounts, and then you make those accounts grow as well. So, not sure what else to tell you. I don't think anybody has any questions. One more time for the people in the cheap seats that just joined me. If you need to reach me, Eugene, EUGENE, Brown, EUGENE, Brown, like the color, at Kraken, KRAKKEN.org. Give me a couple of days, I'll get back with you, because I'm busy. So, and I don't check my emails every day, but I will get back with you. And if you need to text me, you're like, hey, Eugene, I'm really interested, or hey, I want to sign up, how do I do it? You can text me, say, hey, I'm ready. It's 704-835 You text me, hey, I'm ready. I'll send you the link. Tell me what group. You either want to do the starter group, $38 a month. You do the $97 a month group, or you want to do the $2,000 annual and you want individual one-on-one training. 704-835-0025. Hopefully you guys have an amazing Sunday. I got to make this weekend review for the clients, and I will see you guys soon. If you need to follow me, give me a follow if you like what I do. Certainly appreciate that too. Have a good Sunday.